We are going to read a very important chapter in the book of Exodus, Shemos. It's from the Parshas Bo in the regular readings, but I usually just read chapter by chapter from my personal readings. This chapter 12 is following up after the 9 plagues have already decimated the land of Egypt, who is with Paro keeping the children of Israel from going and serving Elohim. And now that's coming upon the 10th plague, which is the most severe, and for surely now Pharaoh will send out the children of Israel. But before that happens, we're given 3 institutions. 1 is the new moon. 2 will be Nisan, or the first month, the month of spring, and Pesach, Passover. There's a lot in every single verse. Stay with me. We'll get started. Let's just get going here. Chapter 12. Shemos, Exodus, chapter 12. V'yomar Yehovah el Moshe ve'el Aaron ve'aretz Mitzrayim le'yomar. And Hashem said to Moshe and to Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, this month, hat chodesh hadzah. This month, particularly, this is set apart for us, right? It's very particular. Shall be for you lechem, for you. Who? You who keep the feasts of Hashem. The beginning of month Rosh Chodeshim. Not only is it the beginning of this year's months, but of all years we are to keep. We are to Chodeshim, all months. The first it is Roshan Hua Lechem Lechodeshi, for you of the months of the year Hashanah. Speak to the entire assembly of Israel, saying, Devar el Chayil Edes Yisrael Leomar, on the 10th Be'eser. On the 10th of this month, Lechodesh Hutzah, they shall take for themselves V'yichechu Lehem, each man a lamb for the house of each father, a lamb avos, a lamb leves for each household. But if too small will be the household to be able to eat a lamb, whose mesa, if the household be too small. So basically, take for your household the lamb. If there is too much lamb, then you're going to be able to invite someone. Who is that? Let's see. Vilechech. Then he shall take hua, the shivnu, and his neighbor who is near hachirib al beitzuv, near to his house. Near to his house, what does that mean? Someone who keeps the Torah, not someone who does not keep the Torah. They are not near to your house. Who's near to your house? Who's near to your real dwelling in the spirit? According to the count of souls, everyone according to ashlu, what he eats shall you count for the lamb. To shlisu el hasa, a lamb, verse 5, a lamb that is unblemished, a male within a first year shall it be for you. Sa tzmim zecher ben shana ye lechem, from the sheep or from the goats, min hachabasim umin hayetzim, shall you take. Now, there's a lot of teachings in that, about how much to take. If some people have ailments that they cannot eat, you should not be including them in the numbers. This is something that's supposed to be holy and consumed. You can look into that if you need more details through the Chumash notes. The yea, and it shall be, verse 6, it shall be, and it shall be, it should read, lechem for you, lemishmeras, for safekeeping, add, until, pay attention to that word, I'm going to use it later, Arvei, Aser, 4 and 10, 14, until 14 Yom, days, lechedesh hazah, of what month? This month, the first of months, right? They shall slaughter it. The shichitzu oitzu. The word there, shichitzu, is kind of the root word for bow down. So I feel that what I read from this was that, during this, it's a very solemn observation, prostrating ourselves to Hashem. The entire congregation of the assembly, chil, Eidos Yisrael, all the entire congregation of the assembly of Israel, bin ha'arvim, in the afternoon. What is that? They're saying the afternoon in the Hebrew Jewish calendar would be about noon, and this reminds me of the story of Yeshua about the 6th hour. You can look that up in the New Testament. V'lechu, they shall take some of the blood, min hadam, v'nitznu, and place it al shtzihid modzos, mezuzos. The mezuzah, this is where we get the word for that that item that we place on our doorpost. It says the mezuzah. The el hamishchuv, and on the lintel. But notice here that it says the 2 mezuzahs, okay? So on both sides of the door. So, usually we place the mezuzah on the right-hand side of our door of our house. But I think from this reference, we're seeing that we're supposed to mark both sides of our doorposts. This is the reference that I use for that. V'yel hamishchuv, and on the lintel, on the houses, that they will eat it in them. Al habesim esher yeshlu oesu behem. They shall eat it within those houses. Then they shall be marking those doorposts. V'yeshlu, they shall eat at habeser, the flesh, belayla, on that night, Hadzah, that night. It's very, very important that we understand that night they eat the flesh of the lamb, roasted by the fire, zli ish. Then we see something very important here. Matzos, and Matzos, the second night. Why? Because we have the vav there. It is not continuing this sentence. And we also know that the festival of Matzah in Leviticus 23 tells us that we eat matzah for 7 days. But it's an 8-day festival, so how can that be? Why are we not eating matzah 8 days? The reason is because this is the second night. Also, if you go to Numbers chapter 33, verse 3, it says that on the 15th day of the first month, the children of Israel left Egypt with a high hand, or left with a high hand in the sight of all the Egyptians. It says that. So basically, we know on the 15th day, that's when they walked out and they did not have time to leaven their bread. So here's my proof again with the vav in between these two statements. On that night, v'layla hadzah. It's very important. In that night, ziliesh, roasted by fire, zliesh, ve'matzos al mirim, a shlu, so basically with bitter herbs, and they shall eat it. Mirim yeshluhu. Okay, so I'm seeing the representation here for the first time, 2 different nights. We can go on with that here shortly. We'll talk about that a little more. Verse 9, do not eat from it partially roasted or cooked in water. Al tishlu memnuna ubeishel b'meishel b'mim. Do not boil it, okay? It's supposed to be over fire. Key, but only roasted by the fire. See, there it is. And zliish, its head with its legs, with its innards, rushu el chriv v'yel chruvu. Do not leave over. Here's the fun part. That goes along with what I just said about 2 nights. V'lo tzisru memnu. Do not leave over. in chapter 12:34, later on, we'll see that the children of Israel bound up their leftovers for the 15th. And this is another representation here. Meimnu, any of it, ad bachor, until morning. That representation right there, ad, is also used in words like forever and ever. Leolam me'ad, from after bachor, basically ad bachor. So it's giving you more, it's like an extended morning. I'm saying here that by reading what I understand about Torah and in Hebrew reading it, that it's showing us that there's an extension here to that day, v'hinasuru, and that is left memenu ad bachar, until morning. In the fire you shall burn. Beish tisrufu. So we also know that they bound up the leftovers. We know that from chapter 12, verse 34. They bound up the leftovers. Also, we know that they left on the 15th. So they had the leftovers going with them on the 15th. But that next morning, they were supposed to burn it. Okay. Let's see here. Do I have any notes that I repeat? It repeats morning twice. So also another thing about morning and morning, it's saying morning twice here. That means something in Torah. It doesn't repeat itself for no reason, for no good reason. In this way shall you eat it. V'checha, verse 11. V'checha, teyeshlu esu. Your waist, mitzneshim, chagurim. Okay, or your waist belted. You should have a belt basically around your waist. Neyeleshim bergelishim, your shoes on your feet. So you're getting ready to go. Mechleshim beidechim, and your staff in your hand. V'yeshleitzim oitzu bechuzun, in haste. You shall eat it in haste. A Pesach offering. Pesach hu leYehovah. It is to Hashem, a Pesach offering. So here's the first time we see later the word Pesach offering. Later it is used for the word skip, I think maybe 6 times. Bechid zrun, in haste. Pesach hu leYehovah. A Pesach it is to Hashem. Now, just because you are you have a belt around your waist, you have your shoes on your feet, and you have your staff in your hand, doesn't mean that you're leaving immediately, but you are getting ready. Okay? Pesach, it is to Hashem. 12, I shall pass through V'yevrutzi, I shall pass through, the land of Egypt on this night, Ba'aretz Mitzrayim B'layla Hutza. The land of Egypt on this night. What night? The 14th. In this night, I read that on the previous passage. V'heishisi, and I shall strike Chayil Bechar, every firstborn Ba'aretz in the land Mitzrayim Meyed, of Egypt, from man, Meyed, from man, Ve'ed, Behema, down to livestock, and against all the gods of Egypt. Ubeishel Elohim, Ubeishel Elohim, so against all the gods, Mitzrayim Esa, I shall execute Shvetzim, judgments, Shvetzim. So there's that word right there. We should learn that. It's almost like Zavah, means commandment. Even so, Shvetzim means judgments. Ani Yehovah, I am Hashem. 13, the blood shall be for you a sign upon the houses. V'yeh hadem lechem leyot al habesim. The oats. This is another good word for you if you're learning Hebrew. Oats, a sign. This is where we understand that there's a sign. We look at the signs in the heaven to also keep the month of spring, because in the book of Genesis, the first chapter, talks about the fourth day where Hashem made the sun and the moon and the stars as to keep track of days, months, years, and festivals. Okay? And how? Through the signs that we see in those items, the sun, the moon, the stars. We're supposed to look at those things to identify the seasons. Okay? And also, this blood shall be a sign, le'ois al habeitzim. So upon the houses that you are therein, I shall see the blood at Hedem, the blood, the Yorotzi Hedem, U Pesach Tzi, and I shall skip. There's that thing there. I see 3 times, 1, 2. This is the second time. Eleshim, over you. I shall skip over you. This is one of the other reasons that I see that this is a 2-day sequence that happens the 14th and the 15th in Egypt. He skips over. It's almost like a skip day. So we have the Passover, which is the Shabbat, and then we have a Shabbaton, which is the high day, which would be the 15th. Alechem, over you, velo ye beishim. There will not be upon you negev, a plague, of destruction, meshizchis, of destruction, beheshisi, when I strike ba'aretz Mitzrayim, in the land of Egypt. It shall become this day, v'yeh heyom, it's what day, the skip day, this shall be the day, lechem letzichron, for you a remembrance. Also, the word is interchangeable, as not only as a remembrance, but also as a strengthening. So this is a day that it will have us remember and strengthen our faith. And you shall celebrate Utzu Chag, it a festival. Here's the Chag part that we see that we are to identify days, months, years, and Chag, the festivals, the Yehovah. Okay. For Hashem, as a festival for Hashem, for your generation, ledurutzishim, and a decree that is eternal shall you celebrate it. Chutz oilem techegu. So you shall celebrate chag. There's the root word chag again, for festival or celebrate. It is eternal. Eulam. Okay, it's a chutz. This is that decree. Oilim techegu. 15, for a 7-day period. Now we go to the second day of this sequence. First we had the Passover. Now we have the 7-day period that is mentioned in Leviticus chapter 23 that begins on the 15th, 7 days of eating a matzo. Shivez imim matzos teishluv. However, b'yom haroshon, on the previous day, what's the previous day? The 14th. You shall eliminate the leaven from your homes. Teshevisu sur mebeizishim. So there it is. This is our proof again that there's a previous day in this. Then is the 15th where they start the Feast of Matzah, or the unleavened bread. Just check that out in Leviticus chapter 15. A lot of people confuse this because they don't read Hebrew. They don't have teachers that read Hebrew. So they start interpreting single words and not putting the whole passage together. And then they can come up with anything they want and they get confused. But this is really the sequence. Is the 14th day, then there's the 15th day. On the previous day, you shall eliminate the leaven from your homes. Harashon teshevisu sur mebeizishem. For anyone who eats leavened food, chayil aishal chemetz, cut off shall that be from that soul be from Israel. V'nechurutza hanepesh huhua me Israel, from Israel. 15th, on the first day until the 7th day. What 7th day? Remember, Leviticus chapter 23 says, for 7 days we shall eat matzah. Miyom haroshan ad yom heshevi, a 7th day, On the first day of, and on the seventh day, B'yom HaRoshan, Mikra Chodesh, of holiness, a convocation of holiness. On the first day, a convocation of holiness. So this is that Shabbaton I mentioned earlier. The first day of unleavened bread is a high Sabbath, which is a day you can cook on, by the way. Unlike the Sabbath, save the Passover Lamb. Mikra Chodesh u b'yom hashevi. And on the seventh day, Mikra Chodesh ye lechem. So the first day and on the seventh day. But it's not necessarily the seventh day. It's actually the eighth day of the feast, the last day of unleavened bread. So, but this is the seventh day of unleavened bread feast. See, this is why people get it confused. It says in Leviticus chapter 23 that the Passover, there is an 8-day sequence. But we have to remember that the Passover day is one of them, and 7 days of them is the unleavened bread. A convocation of holiness shall there be for you. Mechra chodesh yeh lechem. All work may not be done on them. Chayam melecha lo yesa behem, except for what is to be eaten. Ach esher yeshel. On this Sabbath, you can eat, because it says on them. What? On both of those days. Okay? Or on any of those days. During the Feast of Unleavened Bread, you can cook for every single day, even the first day and the seventh day, even though they are Shabbaton, Sabbaths. It is to, what is to be eaten, you can cook. For any soul. Leichel nefesh. So remember, what were the souls that were included? People that were near your house, near your near neighbor. Who are those neighbors that would be near to you? People who keep the Torah. We're not supposed to just have this Passover for people who would not honor it. Hua levodu alone, that alone may be done for you. Yeselechem, you can eat. Basically, you can cook and eat what you've of these items, the matzah and the lambs, of course. You shall safeguard the shemorutem. What are you going to safeguard? At hamatzos. So what are you going to do to safeguard the matzos? You're going to make sure there's no leavening in your home because you've separated that the previous day. You're also going to make sure it doesn't get wet. You're going to make sure it stays intact so that when you do break bread together, you're dealing with something that you preserved, you strengthened it to remembrance of this day. Keep going. Ki be'edzim, for in the midst of this day, what day? The 15th day. Yom Hadzah, this day, I will have taken out Hudzoitzi. Remember, Numbers 33:3 says what day they take them out. On the 15th day, they left Egypt. At Zovatzishim, your Zovatzishim, there's the Zava, meaning like armies or legions. Your legions as Zovatzishim, from the land of Egypt, Ma'aretz Mitzrayim, you shall observe this day for your generations. V'shimorotzem as hayom hazal ledurot, as a decree that is eternal. Basically, olam. It's a chok. Basically, this is a decree that is eternal. This is never going to end. This is not something that ended after Yeshua held the Passover. He said, do this in remembrance of me. He didn't say, break bread every day like this. He didn't say break the bread once a week like this. This is a very specific decree that is eternal. The Passover, it happens once a year in the spring month on the 14th and beginning of all of the festivals of Hashem. Beroshan, in the first, Ba'araveh Eser, so Ba'araveh 4, in the 4, Eser 10, that's 14, Be'eraveh Eser, on the 14th Yom Lechodesh, day of the month, In the evening, be'arav, you shall eat matzos. So that's when you're gonna. So the evening is when the day begins in the Hebrew timeline. It's evening and morning, as we see 6 times represented in Genesis chapter 1. It talks about each day that's created, each day, evening, then morning, evening, then morning. Why do you start eating the matzah in the evening? Because that's when the day starts. Teishlu, you shall eat matzos until the day of the 21st of the month, Yom Ha'achad v'Yesrin lechodesh. One, Ha'achad meaning one, Ha'achad the one, v'Yesrim, and Eser meaning 10, 1, and Im is plural, v'Yeser Im, so 10 Im twice, Ha'achad v'Yesrim, the 21st, the Chodesh of the month, Be'arav, in the evening. So you're going to be eating from the 15th to the 22nd. Even though it says the 21st of the month, we have that one day that we add to the Feast of Unleavened Bread. That's why we start on the 15th and go to the 22nd. 19, Shavus, for 7 Yemim Sur, day period, Levin Lo Yemedzo, may not be found in your houses by for anyone who eats Ki Chayil Eishel Mechemetz, anything leavened. So basically, the leavening is what is prohibited here. Okay, v'nechrutza hanefesh, cut off, shall that soul be hu. So hanefesh, there's the word for soul. It's also the word used for wings. So evening, we know that we eat this, and if we eat anything leavening, that soul shall be cut off from the assembly of Israel, Me'edus Israel. Whether a convert or a native of the land, the gar u be'ezrach ha'aretz. Anything, so basically the convert and the native, the laws are one for each. 20, anything chayil machmatzas, from leavening, lo toishlu, you shall not eat. In all your dwellings you shall eat. B'chel moshvatzishem toishlu matzos. You shall not eat in all your dwellings matzos. You shall eat. 21, Moses called to all the elders of Israel, V'yechra Moshe l'chel zechni Yisrael. And he said to them, V'yomar elehem meshchu uchechu lechem zon. To them, lead forth and take for yourselves the flock, from the flock, lemishpechetzishim, from your families, v'shechetzu ha-pesach, your families, and slaughter the Pesach offering. You shall take a bundle of hyssop, v'lechechtzim chedes adzuv, and you shall take a bundle of hyssop. Hyssop has capsules on the end of it, so it kind of helped the blood stay onto the branch. Utevelitzim, and you shall dip it bedoim, into the blood. Asher beisuf, that is in the basin. So they had a ceremonial basin underneath the sacrifice that would capture the kosher butchering of the lamb or goat. V'hegayilsim, and you shall touch al hamishchuf, the lentil, the yale shisi, and the 2 hamatzuzas, doorposts with some of the blood that is in the basin. Men hedam esher bisuf. And as for you, do not go out. Ve'yetzem lo tidzu. Anyone from the entrance of his house until morning. Eish me Pesach. Entrance is the word Pesach again. V'itzuv ed bechar. So I think I've seen the word Pesach used, I think around 6 times now. 23, Hashem will pass through to strike V'yevar Yehovah le'negev Egypt atz Mitzrayim, and he will see the blood on the lintel. V'yura atz hadam el hemishchuv v'yel on all and on v'yel and on or over and over should see the 2 mezuzos of the 2 doorposts. So why do we have to have two mezuzos? Sorry. U Pesach Yehovah and skip Hashem El HaPesach over the entrance is another Pesach right there. Many times Pesach. We've seen it over and over. It's beautiful. Velo Yitzin, the entrance, and he will not permit the destroyer to enter into your houses to strike. Hamishchitz levo el besishim lenegev. 24. You shall observe v'shemorotzem at heideber, this matter or these words, hazah, this word actually, lechech lecha, as a decree for yourself and for your children until eternity. V'levenicha ad eolam. Oh, there's that word again, ad eolam, until eternity. Like this is even after eternity. Eolam means eternity already. Ad means after. So basically, eternity. That's why I'm saying that when you say ad bakar, it's the morning after the morning. Okay, 25. It shall be that when you enter into the Eched Tzivu El Haaretz, the land that Hashem will give you, Asher Yitzen Yehovah Lechem, as He has spoken, you shall observe this service. Lechem Be'asher Dever V'Shemrotzem at Ha'avadu Hudzes. So this is a service that we will, for eternity even. So this is even in heaven, isn't it? Shall observe in this service, and it shall be that when they say to you, V'yechi yomeru aleshem, your children do, when your children say to you, Benishim, what is this service to you? Hayavoda hadzos leshem. You will say V'yemerotzim Zvach Pesach, the slaughter of the Pesach. It is to Hashem, Hu leYehovah Asher, who Pesach skipped. They actually interpret it skipped 3 times, but the word Pesach is used many times in this passage. Al Beis Bnei Israel, skipped over the houses of the children of Israel. Bei Mitzrayim, in Egypt. So we're supposed to do this for this memory and to strengthen our faith. When he struck Egypt, Benegevu, Adz Mitzrayim, V'yetz Beitznu, but our households, Hadzoil, he saved. And the people bowed their heads, V'yechad Hayam, V'yeshishchu, and they prostrated themselves. See, there it is. They prostrated themselves to this before the Passover slaughtering of the lamb. So basically, I'm saying that this is a very important service where we actually bow. V'yelechu, they went. V'yesu, and they did. Bnei Israel, the children of Israel, as Hashem commanded Moses and Aaron, so did they do. It was at the middle of the night. This is a great part right here. We've said so much already that I could probably cut the video, but this second part is fantastic. This talks about the 14th, the 15th. V'yeh b'chitzi halayla. It was about the middle of the night. Why did they interpret it in the at the middle, on or about? It's not after midnight. It's not before midnight, because Pharaoh, his servants would probably come to him and say, "Oh, it's past midnight, and the Lord didn't do what He said." Or if it was before midnight, they'd start worrying about what was going to happen. Bechidzi halayla, at the middle of the night. V'Yehovah hushu, that Hashem struck chayil bachar, every firstborn in the land of Egypt, ba'aretz Mitzrayim, from the firstborn of Pharaoh, mebachar Paro, who sits on his throne, heyeshuv al chesuv. His throne is probably a silver throne, because I see the root word for silver here. Ad bechar, down to the firstborn of the captive, Hashivi, Bachar Hashivi, Asher, who is in the dungeon, Bebeis Havor, and every firstborn of livestock, Vikshul, Bachor, Behema. 30. Pharaoh rose up at night, V'yechem Paro Laila. Now, if it's already after midnight, it's starting to become morning, right? So, well, it's midnight, but he obviously it must have been some process to all the slaying of the firstborn of the livestock and the firstborn. And he rose up at night, not in the morning. So this must have been the following night. Hua v'sheil avediv, and he and all his servants, v'cheil, and all Egypt, Mitzrayim, and all of Egypt, v'tzehi, and there was zoicha gedol, an outcry that was great by Mitzrayim, in Egypt, for there was not a house where there was not there a corpse. Ki in base Asher ayin shemaz. Also, where there was not took, basically, from the house. No text messages. Basically, he called to Moses. I remember this. V'yechra Moshe u'Aaron. So he called to Moses and Aaron. This is a note I was listening to a rabbi, and he was like, I guess there was no text messages. He had all of Egypt was crying out loud, and you could hear it. V'yechar Moshe, and he called to Aaron, Moses and Aaron, Laila, at night, v'yoimar chaynu. He said, rise up, zo, go out from the midst of my people, mitzuch, emi, game etzem, of my people. Also you, game, beni Israel, also the children of Israel. Come out from the midst of my people. Basically, go out. Also you, also the children of Israel, you and your people, basically, uleishu, go, avedu, and serve. Go serve. Finally, go serve Eitz Yehovah, Hashem. Go serve Hashem. There's a punctuation mark here in this particular one as Yehovah. So this one points that there seems to be different pronunciations for different situations. I'll just put that out there. And you, as you have spoken. 32, also your flocks and also your cattle. Take, as you have spoken. So what was he saying that he would take? In the previous chapter, he was telling Pharaoh about this, what was going to happen. He said, look, we're going to take all of our livestock. We're going to take our children, our wives, our elders, and our livestock. And not only that, but you're going to provide some livestock for sacrifices as well. So now he's giving in to everything. Is take as you have spoken. Ve'leishu, and go. And you should bless gam oitzi, me also. So he's like, hey, look, take as you've spoken, even of my animals, basically, referring back to the previous conversations they had. And you should bless me also. Imposted Egypt upon the people to hurry. Basically, they imposed them. They implored them. They strengthened them to leave Mitzrayim al ha'am lemahar, upon the people to hurry, l'shilachem, and to expel them forcibly by strength, min ha'aretz, from the land. Basically, I don't know if they had any strength left, but they were certainly imploring them to go from the land, men ha'aretz. For they said, chi amru, they said, we are all dying. Koilenu motzim. They were in hysteria of Yosa. The people took etz betzuchu, their dough. Okay, and this is the part where we know that it was the 15th. They took the dough, turim yuchemetz, before it could rise. Mishurutzim, their leftovers. Remember the part I told you I'll talk to you about. They said back in verse 10, it talks about how you're supposed to eat the Passover lamb ad bakar, until the day after the morning, right? Or till after the morning you shall burn it. Well, they did take the leftovers on this day, because it wasn't the first morning, and it wasn't the second morning. It was going to be after this morning, though. Zuraz, because this is the middle of the night. Remember, not middle of the night, but the next night, Paro's waking up, telling them to leave, and then they packed up their leftovers that night. Zuraz, bound up. Their leftovers they bound up. Mishuritzim, Zuruz, Beshumilitzim, in their garments. Ail Shechumim, upon their shoulders. 35. The children of Israel did according to the word of Moses. Beni Israel, so Kadover Moshe. They requested via Shoilu. They requested, what do they do next? They took everything out of Egypt. Mitzrayim, from the Egyptians, cheli chesef, vessels of silver, udshli zahav, and vessels of gold, vishlemitz, vishemlus, and garments. So they took the best silver, the best gold, the best garments. 36. V'Yehovah Hashem find favor the people. Nathan, he gave favor. It's chin ha'am. Basically, Hashem converted the hearts of the people in Egypt as well. You will see that some of them leave with the Israelites. Be'eni, the people in the eyes of Egypt find favor. It's chen ha'am be'eni Mitzrayim. V'yeshoilum, and they granted their requests. So they emptied out Egypt. V'yenezlu at Mitzrayim. Wow, I really want to keep reading. I'm just going to make a decision real quick. Oh no, I just want to read a few more verses to tell you about the mixture of people that left. 37. V'yesu, they journeyed. Beni Israel, the children of Israel. Ramses, from Ramses. Suchos, to Sukkot, about 600,000 on foot. Cheshish, Moz, Elif, Regli, the men aside from children. Hagivrim, Levad, Matzos. 38. Now listen to this. V'gam Arav, Rav, Eila, Eitzam. Also, a mixture of people that was numerous went up with them. So, we understand from this that there were many people that converted to Judaism, to becoming a Hebrew, to being a convert, a proselyte, from this whole encounter. It was the Passover should also be used as a mechanism for evangelism. When we invite people to the feast, we should be careful that they will honor it, but we shouldn't be too quick, because it's a holy feast, and they could accept a curse on themselves if they eat it unworthily, actually, and not dedicate to Hashem. A mixture of peoples that is numerous went up with them, v'tzon, u'bacher, and flocks and cattle, michna, chabad, livestock, vast, moed to the extreme. I'm going to stop there because it's just a simply really long video. I think one of the longest I've ever made. But I really hope you got some great stuff out of that. There's so much more in this. Oh, man. All right, guys. Shalom. Peace. Shalom, peace to you. And we'll catch you on the next one.